let's move ahead to the panel discussion. You're looking forward to it. We are looking forward to it as well. Balaji said, okay, don't make me sit for the longest of times without talking, okay? So he wants to be a moderator here. So Balaji, you're the moderator. Now let's invite our panelists. A round of applause, please, from all of you when I invite them. Mr. Girish Kaushik from JAA and Associates, Bengaluru. Mr. Rishabh Lodha from Lodha and Bhatt, Bengaluru. Mr. Surendra Reddy from Guru and Jana, Bengaluru. Mr. Hitesh Garg from TR Chadda and Co. LLP from Delhi. Mr. Anil Giridhar from Kirtane and Pandit, Delhi. Ms. Srishti Sarayan, partner True and Fair, leading the vertical of data analytics. Please come on the stage. Srishti is very excited about it. I mean, she just can't keep it in, like, can we have the chairs? Just arrange the chair. So Balaji is holding the stage now.
Yeah, please. I'm missing Srishti, I think. Yeah, so we'll have a brief discussion about audit quality in some practical issues which audit firms face. Considering our agenda calendar time frame, we are going to be probably having 5 questions to discuss with the panelists. I'll be asking one question to each of the panelists. I'm going to keep Srishti free. She's going to respond to all the 5 questions, so I'll keep her free. Okay, and the lead respondent will share the thoughts, and then others can supplement to the questions. That's how we'll do this thing. So today, there was conversations from Harinder about expectation gap. So we'll start first discussing expectation gaps. First is understanding some of the expectation gaps and how does audit firms address those expectation gaps. A lot of mention was there about NAFRA. Personally, I'm not bothered about NAFRA, because for NAFRA the only expectation gap is complying with the standards on auditing. You comply, there is no expectation gap. It's very simple. NAFRA can be addressed very simply. Okay, we are not used to the tone or the magnitude of penalties. That is a different thing. But the expectation is very simple. Expectation is you comply with standards on auditing, I will let you go free, not an issue. Okay, and in one of the orders, actually NAFRA has taken also a proportionate view. They didn't ban the partner. That was the only order where they didn't ban the partner. They put only a monetary penalty. Though I couldn't see much of a rationale to it, but that's what they did. So therefore, one can presume that they are also grading the level of non-compliance and trying to see what should be the level of penalty which should be there. But NAFRA, I'm not going to be bothered. Therefore, let's not address expectation gaps with NAFRA. So Surendra, I think I'll start with you. Because in Bangalore, your firm has taken a lot of initiatives on quality in terms of addressing things. In fact, till a couple of years back, they refused to do listed companies, saying that we are not up to the scale. Okay, then they invested in quality, and now they are doing listed companies also. But they were very conscious in terms of probably what they felt, what they need to improve, and after only making that investment, they went into the thing. So they were starting to set the tone on expectation gap a couple of years back itself. So Surendra, your thoughts, please.
Thanks, Balaji. Thanks for the opportunity. I think a lot is spoken on the expectations. I don't think it's going to go away. I think rather, at least in the recent past, it is widened, as Singh sir also was telling. Probably the constant communication with the stakeholders. Obviously, at the public, we cannot do that communication. Definitely with the other stakeholders, definitely it can be investors or it can be the client, board, whoever it is. I think the constant communication is very, very important to bridge that gap of expectations. If it's unreasonable, probably as audit firms, we should go meet them and express what is the difficulty in pushing that whatever the quality or certain questions that we ask and what are the documents that we are asking. Probably again, if you classify the expectation gap, it can be one side and the performance side, and the other side it is the knowledge side. Probably the performance side set what is that we are expecting from the client versus what client is expecting, whether it is reasonable, unreasonable. I mean, solve that issue. From the knowledge side, I think that's very, very important. Build in-house. Each industry is very, very different. The dynamics of the business have changed quite a lot. I think what as a BFSI, what we require as a knowledge, and the rest of the industries, what we have to require as a knowledge. Or if you take even the startup world, the ecosystem is very, very different. The speed in which startups are growing, maybe some places controls are not going. I think this is where constant communication with the client and invest quite a lot on the people and technology. Some extent probably we can bridge that gap. I don't think we can zero down. And at the other stage where the public expectation, it's very, very different. They think that as an audit firms, once we have put our signature, they think everything on the earth we would have covered. But it's not so. I don't think that can be addressed. As a entire profession, probably we give them a lot more confidence. Probably some perceptions can get changed, I feel. But some extent we can bridge the gap, not 100% though. That's what I feel.
Others, any views on addressing the gaps?
See, my view is that earlier the mindset, we were not able to push back our clients, let's be honest. Now we are ready to push back our clients, seeing the resignations of auditors. So the mindset is changing now. I think that's what Dr. Ashok Haldia said. It's the mindset. Now we are able to push back the client. We're saying, okay, I can't sign this, I'm resigning. That's the mindset. I think I'm very happy that this change is coming and it's only better for us. And in our profession, if we don't own up the expectation of society, we are not supposed to be in this profession.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Haldia rightly said, right? Once you decide to enter into the audit profession, that should be driven by an understanding of why you are, the higher purpose. So that casts a lot of responsibility as auditors. It's not through regulation, so I agree with you. I don't think NAFRA should make a difference in how we should address this. It's a chance to relook. As the sir said, I think a lot of Big Four is doing another service of actually setting the a very public example of resigning from audits and setting expectation of what can be acceptable, what cannot be acceptable. So I think that's the way to do it. Establish a purpose.
Yeah. So I agree to most of the points which have been spoken here. The first thing is communication. I think as auditors, traditionally we have been very poor in communicating. All the brilliant work which you land up doing on behalf of the CFO gets the credit in the audit committee. Because you don't speak about it. You don't even tell how much you have supported the CFO. We don't take any credit for the work which you do for on behalf of the company. So obviously when the communication is not there, obviously they don't understand what the auditor is doing, why it is happening in a particular way. So I'll digress slightly. In True and Fair, we have got a very, very crazy concept. I am challenging my advisory board to help me out with that concept. Right now it is in discussions with PR Ramesh. As True and Fair, we want to advise the auditors to come out with a talking audit report. This is an audit report which is supplementary or an annexure to the audit report which is currently being issued. Because if you look at the audit report currently being issued, if I cover the name of the company, can you tell me which company's audit report you are reading? How can HDFC Bank and TCS audit report be the same? It can't be the same. But today it is the same. So what does the user get in that? Nothing, zero. Therefore, we are actually suggesting let the auditor come out with a talking audit report. In the talking audit report, the auditor better explains what is the audit he did. That means what is his risk of fraud in the audit, or what is the procedures he performs. Therefore, you are setting the expectations of the reader very clearly. What is the role of the auditor in doing the audit? Tomorrow, stakeholder then cannot imagine that the auditor is responsible for detecting frauds, because you have not told, you have told him very clearly what you are doing. So I want that communication to happen. The other matter of discussion which I had with Mr. Maligam also is, I actually wanted to bring in a point on audit fees in the talking audit report. Explain to the stakeholders, which is the shareholders at large, saying that I asked for an audit fee of, let's say, 50 lakhs. Client has agreed on an audit fee of 30 lakhs. I gently will accept it. I don't have a choice. I'll crib curse, but I'll accept it. Now, have I ever communicated that this 30 lakhs is not commensurate to the fee I should have normally got? And am I telling the stakeholders at large what is the impact that cut-in fees is going to have on my quality? Because when I look at my fees represents three elements: recovery of costs, share of profit to the partners, and third is definitely investment in quality. The minute fees is cut, the first thing which gets cut is the investment in quality. Second thing which cut is costs, because you try to control the cost, you don't give the increments which are there, then the attrition happens, it gets into a negative spiral. And lastly, it will impact the partner's profit. But are we communicating this? In fact, even today, when we discuss fees, who do we discuss the fees with? We discuss the fees with the CFO. We don't even discuss it with the audit committee. You have done all the favors to the CFO, not claimed credit for that, and you don't even discuss the fees with the audit committee. You have made two mistakes in communication. One is not telling the audit committee what work you did for the CFO. Two is you never discuss your fees for the with the audit committee, justify why you are asking that fee, because you do the management's work also. But let's stop all this. No? Communication, like Surendra Reddy said, I think is the first point in balancing a lot of these expectation issues. I think you should all take it in mind. It's a fantastic point. Thank you, Surendra. I'll move to my next question, and this I'll focus on Anil Giridhar, because Kirtan and Pandit, we know that they've invested heavily in quality initiatives. As you are investing in these quality initiatives, what do you see as the inhibitors today?
So, I was talking to Mr. Singh also. The first, how do we ensure you can go and buy a great software, you can buy everything. The first and foremost is the acceptance by the people, the ground staff who has to use it, who has to put the data, who has to do everything. So how do we get their buy-in? That's first. Second, of course, is the cost consideration, because as you rightly said, the fees ultimately the client is cutting for whatever reason. So the cost is another consideration. So these are two large considerations which are there. Third, of course, we have no choice. We are left with no choice now. The growth of large firms in India, and the Indian firms not being able to come to the quality because they were not investing for whatever reason. So if India has to see as the vision of all of us getting the India on top, is that Indian firms, Indian chartered accountant firms grown in India, originated in India, should become large. And it should be the other way around now. It should become multinational firms rather than other way around till now. So the investment mindset of these Indian firms in talent, in software, and in the quality of work has to be there.
Any other thoughts? Inhibitors of quality?
So one more thing I would like to add is we are not open to criticism. When investigators or any other people are looking at our files, we do tend to step back, and we don't initiate any internal reviews for ourselves. Any mechanism that we can review our own files or set up an internal mechanism wherein we improve on our own quality. That is something which we do tend to take a foot back, and we are not open to that idea. That is one of the factors which we must look at. And another thing which I feel is, like Sir mentioned, that it is very important to collaborate, but we are pretty narrow-minded and look at only our personal goals or our personal gains, I would say, rather than looking at a broad picture, that if we are coming together, we can actually compete with the big 4, big 6.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one important thing sir was mentioning that there's a lot of challenges that they face while implementing a software or quality mechanisms at the lower staff, right? So that's one thing where the tone at the top helps quite a bit. So as long as the top management or the partners are communicating with the team the objective of why we're doing whatever we're doing, and the implications that we have if we are not doing this, that is something that helps people understand why we're doing a certain thing. And essentially in the audit profession, the issues that get solved at the top are generally brought up by an article or by the junior most staff. So unless we equip the junior most staff to think the way we are thinking, it is going to be very difficult for us to implement quality in any firm. We might get whatever tool we want, but unless there is change and perception management at the lowest rank in the office, I don't think quality is going to work.
Yeah, here again I agree with almost all the points. Okay, the first thing is a bottoms-up approach, like what Anil was mentioning. I think the buy-in from the staff is very, very critical. Now, buy-in from the staff should be by encouragement, not by enforcement, because enforcement will only increase the resistance. Encouragement will support the staff improve on adoption of the quality. And Srishti's point was very valid. Any inspection, I used to look at as a learning from the mistakes. To err is human. We will say forgive is divine, but today that's not the context. But to err is human, you learn from that mistake and take steps to improve yourself. So how are you improving yourself? That is a very, very important aspect, and therefore that internal review, internal inspection becomes extremely very, very important. Coming to ADOC, in one of the contexts was spoken, in ADOC what we are trying to do is, we want the audit firms to try out ADOC, and we want only the users of the audit firm, which is your staff, to do it. We don't want the partners to look at it. I want feedback from the users, because they are the ones who are going to use this tool day in and day out. Unless they are comfortable, any tool which you buy and trust, it will be an enforcement, it will not work. It's not worth it. You should not invest in the tool. This should be a tool which is, or anything, any technology, I won't restrict to ADOC, any technology should be something which the user feels necessary and demanding, so that it becomes very relevant as they adopt the particular tool. So moving ahead to my third question, there is conversation about tone at the top, there is conversation about staff acceptance, etc. So Hitesh, this question is for you. Where do you see the perception on quality amongst the partners and the staff? Is there a difference? Is there a synchronization? What do you think is happening?
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, all of you. First of all, I want to ask from you, so whether you see that there is a perception gap regarding the audit quality between the staff and the partners. Do you agree that there is a perception gap? So what we as a partner think about the quality and what the audit staff think. So I think that most of us must agree that the level of audit quality as a perception the partner think, and as a perception that the audit staff is having altogether a different thing. And that, what is the reason for that? So reason for that, if you see that the kind of the expectation, so that everybody is talking about, the kind of the expectation regulators is having, stakeholders is having, altogether is different, and the who ultimately bear that. So ultimately is the engagement partner only. Like the sir was saying that the inspection came 2-3 years or the 7 years later, then the audit was done. And when we look into the files, most of the audit staff is not with the organization, and it is only the engagement partner who ultimately bear all these things. So that's why we are saying that the perception of the engagement partner is altogether different from the engagement, the team. And then now what are the reason for that? So reason for that, to my understanding, is the one thing is the experience and the expertise as far as the partner is concerned and the staff is there. Other thing is the responsibility and the accountability. So partner is more together the responsible and the accountable whenever there is any kind of mistake that would be there. So other thing is the timeline. So timeline and the pressure that is there towards the audit staff to close up for the audit. So when we are seeing the, like, I want to highlight that nowadays there is a kind of race to close the audit within that period of time. After the closure of the period, let's say the companies are rushing to publish the result within 10 days, 15 days. So practically it is not possible for all type of companies. Some companies are having that kind of infra, but some kind of the companies not having that kind of infra. But they have to close the financials, and the audit staff is under that pressure because ultimately they have to complete the audit. But when we come to the audit partner, when we relook into the files, so there are a lot of things are missing. So they don't understand what is the real reason for that, because the kind of pressure in which the audit team was working altogether different than the perception of the partner. And the one way it is a kind of the problem from the partner level also, because the kind of staff that we are giving, so whether they are equipped with the kind of the audit quality that is required, because we say that we need the quality, but we are giving that kind of audit staff, that is also one of the problem. Other thing is related with the training and the development, overall development of the team. So it is not only about the technical training, but overall development of the team to understand the perspective of the audit quality as such. So in my view, that these are the main reason due to which there is a gap between the perception between related with the audit quality, with the engagement partner and the audit staff.
Any other thoughts? So, couple of pointers here. One is, I think partners should take the initiative to communicate to the staff very clearly what is the quality expected, so that you try to bridge any gap which may exist, so that the tone is set from the top. Okay. Second is also the partners enabling the staff to perform their work on a time basis. Like when he said client puts a deadline and we are struggling to meet the deadline, everything is compromised. Now, first question I will again ask is, we know that it's a challenge. Why didn't we go to the audit committee and tell them that let's not have all these unreasonable timelines? I can't complete my audit. See, today you are an advantage. My client is married to you for 5 years. You can't divorce in between. He will find it more difficult to divorce you in between. Okay. So why can't we have these frank conversations to say that I can't meet these timelines, extend it. I need this much time to complete the audit. So you will also be safe, I will also be safe. It's both in both our interests, because if I do a compromise job where something fails, you are responsible, I am responsible. Maybe I will face more flag because of the way auditors are being treated, but he also faces the flag. Why are you getting into that? And today, at least in the public interest entities, the independent directors are very worried about this. Therefore, they won't mind a frank conversation. They really look forward to these conversations so that they also feel safe. So I think we should start, because the question is this: where does this circle start? If you start the conversation in the first client, that will percolate down to every client. But if you don't even make that start, this conversation is never going to happen, and you will end up in the same boat. It's not worth it. If you have a problem, you should go to the client and tell them that this is unreasonable, we can't do it. Okay. I can tell you Deloitte in an example. We used to have a Chennai based company, I won't name the company, of course it's public domain information, you all can find it out. They used to publish their results on 1st of April or 2nd of April for March 31. Okay. So when we went in as Deloitte, we said this is nonsense. How can you do an audit in 24 hours? Even if I have done a lot of interim work, whatever it is practically impossible. So we said we are not going to sign it. You move the date. With great difficulty, client moved it by 3 weeks. At least they gave us 3 weeks then, no? But had we not had this conversation, we would also been in a corner to do sign off in 2 days, and it would have been a terrible sign off. Because you don't know what is wrong in that. You never had the time to audit. You are placing faith on God and signing it. That cannot be the case, no? But you need to have these conversations. When you have these conversations, the audit committees will respect it, dates will get postponed. Not an issue at all. And we have had these conversations. I have personally had these conversations in large companies, and they have respected that. In large companies, eminent boards, saying that sorry, I am still due for something. You want to adopt the accounts, you adopt the accounts. I will sign it on when I complete the audit. You can't postpone your board meeting, don't postpone it. You have a board meeting, adopt the accounts. I have a right to sign it on a different date, I will sign it when I complete it. You take the risk of subsequent events, that's all. But if you are comfortable, go ahead with it. We are not stopping you. If you think your financials are so good, ready to be adopted even without the auditor signing off, fantastic, go ahead, not an issue at all. So, but we need to have very clear conversations which will help in the whole scheme of things. We were also talking about technology, in terms of artificial intelligence, blockchain, all of them coming and things like that. So Girish, what is the relevance of technology in terms of today in audit quality, and what are you people doing about something on technology?
Yeah. So I think let me stick to audit quality, technology for audit quality rather than
Yeah,
blockchain
absolutely.
and other
Yeah.
things that may come on the user side as well. I think most of us are used to audit automation tools, Microsoft Word, word processor. That's where I have so many more experienced people here. But even when I started audit, the only technology we used to use was Microsoft Word and Excel, and the primary versions of those. We saw some parts of audit workflow automation tools coming over the last many years, mostly limited to what, let's say, Big Four was adopting and doing. ADAT, Caseware, all of them have brought in a lot more rigor. Mini ERPs, as Mr. Haldia mentioned, in
Audit is
terms
still
of.
not launched.
I have had the privilege of seeing the previews. So these are all mini ERPs that help in the audit performance itself. But more importantly, and something that's of excitement for me, is I think artificial intelligence, extractive AI more than generative AI. These are going to transform the way audit can be done. I think sampling will probably be less relevant going forward when the ability to actually process large amounts of data, analyze them, using models to actually arrive at conclusions that can be a lot more reliable than sample and reliance on controls to arrive at a comfort whether the account balance is right or not. I think that's where the world is going to go. That's where we need to be investing in understanding how those models will work.
Any other thoughts on technology?
One, as added to what Girish said, one, using of technology, all this is important. But another thing, what I would like to add it, I think as an auditor, we should go to the source data. I mean, see, in today's world, quite a bit of data which is there in their websites or tools or whatever it is, that will get translated into the financial data, which will go to the SAP or whatever the Tally, whichever the software which is. But unless we are going and seeing the source, we don't know the depth of the issue, if at all anything is there. I think connecting those financial data versus the source data is important, in spite of using the whatever the technology, whatever the tools and this one. Sometimes even client is refusing to share that data because the entire thing is flown. But then we don't know what is getting prepared there. Sometimes if there is an issue, obviously there is an impact on the financials. I think that is one thing we need to keep in mind.
I think one more point around technology. Fine, we have all artificial intelligence, all the data, all the information, all the analytics available to us. Yes, those are only tools available to help the auditor form an opinion. So, as the another panelist also said, that we should go to source data. We should not forget that basic, theory which we learned maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Okay, sampling can go change, but the basic common sense, basic questions, and ensuring that the financials are reflecting the true and fair view. So today now with the advent of technology, a lot of information is also about the client is available in the digital domain. So we can cross-check a lot of information, and before we form an opinion, give our opinion about the audit. So I agree that technology is helpful, but ultimately, unless you put your mind and unless you put your basic professional knowledge and expertise in question, then only the opinion can be formed. Technology alone cannot solve everything.
Yeah, just to add, one thing is the using the technology for the purpose of analytical purpose of doing of audit. Other thing is the how we demonstrate that the audit that is required has in fact been done. So based upon the auditing standard and the how we document, how we demonstrate all the audit process. So to my understanding, it becomes very difficult to do it manually. So till the time we have technology, till the time we have some kind of audit documentation or audit tool, so it is very difficult to demonstrate that all the audit processes have been performed and performed in time as per the requirement of the auditing standard. To see whether it has been performed, who has performed, at what time it has been reviewed, so whether it has been reviewed or not, whether the EQC partner has reviewed the same, all these things can be done by way of the technology only. So by manual processes, it becomes just impossible. So technology is very important nowadays to demonstrate the all audit processes have been done.
So just to add to what all these panelists have added, we are looking at, or rather auditing a lot of startup companies, which are the Zomatos and the Swiggies and Dunzos of the world, right? Wherein numerous transactions are taking place every second as I speak. So auditing these transactions and getting comfort over the numbers, it becomes really important, and it cannot be done only on sample basis, and hence it becomes very important to analyze and understand this data. So we need to actually understand how the company actually is looking at things first, because they have built-in bots. They are looking at various, uh, applications or various analysis which they themselves are doing to get comfort over such numbers. So we need to first understand what they are doing. Maybe try and test those applications whether we can rely on them, and also see if we can get help from other applications which are available, which we can leverage for audit. Like we have Power BI and other tools which are available in the market. So all such tools will actually help you analyze the data and get more comfort looking at those specific outliers which are of actual audit relevance or audit focus. And that would help us in doing more relevant audit, because we would be looking at the pinpointed, or rather the critical issues, and having relevant discussions with the client, rather than just saying that we have looked at it and gotten comfort over those numbers. It will really not help. When we go to them with specific issues, that these are the issues or this is how you can improve your process, it will also help them.
I think one key thing that we can take away from this is, I think one of the panelists was, one of the speakers was mentioning that AI and technology might replace accountants, auditors, but I still don't have an answer how we're going to get professional skepticism into an AI, right? So while we might use technology to crunch all the data, we might use technology to put everything in place, you will still need a human with professional skepticism to analyze that transaction. I'll give you an example from our office, right? So there was while doing an AP testing for a client, the client has the entire AP process on one of the tools that automate AP, right? So there's a PO, there is an invoice, there is a payment that has been made for that. Right, so if you see from a technology standpoint, that there is no red flag, but an article in the firm picks that up and he says that, okay, this invoice reads XYZ or audit support services. Can you show me proof of what support you've got, right? And the client doesn't have an answer to that. So I don't think a system will be able to pick up these things. It is still the amount of training that needs to be put into the people. So we can definitely use technology as enablers to automate planning, to not automate, to increase the efficiency in planning, to increase the efficiency of our work. But I don't think technology will be able to replace our work. So that's what I've got to say on this.
Yeah, I agree. So technology can only provide inputs to the auditor. It can't give the solution. The inputs have to be evaluated and duly considered by the auditor before they take their decision. That is where it would stand. And as volume of transaction goes up, I don't think sampling is going to be the approach. I think you have to get into data analytics. You don't have a choice, and that is something which will definitely be relevant and required. And we at True and Fair, with Srishti leading the whole thing, we will be investing heavily in data analytics. But we have been very strongly advised that your first focus is get out ADAT. Once you finish ADAT, you do what you want to do, but focus and get out ADAT. So therefore, we are channelizing all our energies to ADAT, and once that is done, we will start our work on data analytics. In fact, we are already having discussions with Finite Loop on some of the things, because these terminologies, AI, machine learning and all are nice, but I don't know how to use it in audit. I frankly don't know. I can also use those jargons, but I don't know what to do with those jargons. Okay, and then when they gave their examples of other situations in other industries where AI and ML was used, I could simulate the same situations to audit. For example, there was some study done on some near miss accidents in the shipping industry. Now I said, going concern to me is a near miss accident. Can I do a study around going concern? If the company is showing a certain financial behavior, can similar financial behavior be picked up from the public domain and find out how many instances of going concern challenges arose? That will be a very good reference point to the auditor. Impairment assessment. Client is giving a lot of projections. You validating all the projections, all look nice, and we always generally say nice. Okay, but how do we challenge that? Can I get information from the public domain as to whether those assumption parameters are relevant or not. Today, how do we strengthen our use of the public domain? That can we bring it in a tool? Very simple thing, I am doing a debtors analysis, some party has not paid. The client says, no, he's got some financial problem, but he'll pay. How much do I go behind that party to find out what is happening for him? What is his severity of financial crisis? What is the assessment I do? I trust the management saying that one more quarter, next quarter he'll pay. The next quarter will keep on rolling forward, that doesn't help. But can I do something today with the public domain information of that particular customer, whether I can do a better meaningful assessment? So can I build an intelligence for that? Can I search that company name, what are public domain information available, to find out what are all the reports coming about that company in the public domain, to assess whether what the management is stating is fair or not. So we want to invest some more in terms of analytics and how public domain searches can be improved by the auditors. This won't be a tool, but this will be a guidance. So you can also sort of simulate and use it. That's what we'll try to do. So last question, just to summarize our discussions, what steps audit firms should take? So Rishabh, you are the one left out.
Yeah. So this is an interesting question. I'm going to answer this from a mid-sized firm perspective, right? So the first question that comes up in our mind is, what is audit quality? What is audit quality for the firm? What is audit quality for the client? And what is audit quality for a stakeholder? So while discussing with one of the stakeholders, so this was a CFO of one of the largest VC funds in the world, and he was the India CFO of that fund. He says that you say you have audit quality. Audit quality comes from people. The big fours aren't able to hire, right? How are you going to provide audit quality? As a medium firm, you already get the talent that is not going to the big four, big six. How, as a medium firm, you are going to provide audit quality, right? So the counter to that is 2 to 3 things, right? As a mid-sized firm, if we have our intent on audit quality, we focus on 2 things. One, hiring and retaining. Second, training, right? So when you are hiring and retaining, you try and pay as much as as much as competition pays. So for example, if a big four starting salary is 8.5 lakhs, you have to pay 8.5 lakhs. You cannot say that I'm going to pay 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs, there's not as much work. People are earning more per minute worked here than they are in the big four. That's not how it works. The first step is to hire right, and to hire right, we will have to jack up our salaries. Second is to train and retain people. Now, retaining people in the big four is rather more difficult because there are a lot of processes. There are no arbitrary decisions that can be made, which in a medium-sized setup, there are certain concessions, certain incentives that you can provide to people if you really want them to stay. So that is one way in which we tackle retention of people. The second is training, making sure that people have access to the right tools, people have access to the right content, and there is some amount of discipline in training them week on week, month on month. So unless we do these things, we are not going to be able to provide audit quality to the clients, at least from the firm's perspective, which is basically documenting, making sure things are happening on time, making sure the files are in a particular shape, the audits are getting completed on time. Now, when you look at audit quality from a client's perspective, as a client, so if I were a client and I were getting my books audited, why do I care how you're documenting your books, right? Why do I care what kind of documentation you have, or whether work done is documented or not documented? That's none of my concern. As audit quality, what do I want from my CA firm? I want proactiveness. I want timely response. I want the firm to follow up rather than me following up with the firm that, please complete my audit, please complete my audit. These are the softer aspects of audit quality that probably a client would see, right? And in addition to that, what more can you do for the client? While you have the statutory obligation of reporting true and fair view of the financial statements, what are the additional 2 to 3 things that you can do as a firm to add value to the client? Now, this could be a board presentation wherein you highlight to the client that these were the shortcomings in the audit that need not go into the audit report, but these are to be taken note in the board. Make sure that there are some kind of corrective actions that are taken, right? The second step could be that there are certain compliances that are good to have, or certain good practices that you can recommend to the company. Third is a lot of auditors end up giving a surprise in the audit report. So how can you avoid a no surprises audit? So if for example there is a qualification, how can you make sure that qualification is discussed well within the timelines of the audit. So these are the kind of software aspects that I think client perceives as audit quality rather than just our documentation. So that's audit quality for us internally, right? But audit quality for a client is what is eventually going to get us the fee, right? And the last aspect where audit quality gets appreciated is for example in a Bangalore market where we work with a lot of startups, there are a lot of funds that invest in these startups, right? So these VC funds have portfolio companies. Now when they empanel an auditor or they recommend an auditor, they expect that they are kept in loop in terms of what is happening in the company, making sure that there are no fraud risks or those kind of aspects are being taken care of. So in terms of quality, if we are able to provide to these funds that we are taking care of your investment, we are being vigilant while doing the audit, that is something that they like, and then that helps us get more fees when we go out in the market. So these are the kind of things I think as medium firms we can try to implement to enhance audit quality.
Yeah, nice breakup, Rishabh. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, just to add the what Rishabh has told, that the one thing is the retention of the audit staff, of quality staff, that is very important, because as a mediocre firm, so we don't have that kind of robust system that being standardized. So if a new person join and we just give them training, little bit training, and they can start working. We are more person driven like of the firm. So in the mediocre firm, the investment in the right kind of people and the retention of the same are very important for the purpose of audit. Other thing is related with the standardization of the documentation, audit documentation. That is very important, because at present at the mediocre level firm, those standardization is not there. So audit documentation differ from partner to partner, audit team to audit team. One team is doing a very good job, they are having a very good process of the documentation, but similarly within the same premises only, we can have the different partner, they have altogether different way of doing the audit. So that the audit quality suffers in any way. Other thing we can add this related with the training. So continuous training is very important. Like in the big four or the other big firms are having a continuous training, with the generally the mediocre firm lack. So that is a submission from my side.
So on the training, I was from a large firm, okay. One of the frustrating things on the training was check in the box. You are holding sessions with unwilling participants who are made to come, because unless they finish that, their appraisal is impacted, compensation is impacted, they are forced to come. But the connect of relevance of the subject matter most of the time did not happen. Therefore, you need to find a way in which the training becomes more involved, where people want the training. That is the way you have to deliver, because post training it will become a check in the box. People will come and sit, have lunch, tea, coffee, break and go off. That's not going to be the objective. Therefore, we have to be slightly guarded in terms of the training, but all the points are very, very valid points. One thing which excites me in the whole conversation is a lot of points which are spoken today on quality. My single ADOC will address most of the things. My single ADOC. I am not talking about the overall ecosystem we are trying to create, but the single ADOC will address most of the things. And I think Jaideep will be talking to you about ADOC as a product, and we'll take it from there. Thank you all. Thank you for your time, inputs. Thank you.
Balaji, I have a question for you. Now, we've spoken, we've covered all the points, right? No, let this be my place.
Okay.
You can move it. Now, yeah, this looks better. Now that we've all spoken about, all key points have been considered, right? We have spoken about acceptance of criticism. We have spoken about change of mindset. We have spoken about communication, transparency, timely and relevant information. Now, how do you think, Jaideep is going to talk about ADOC, but how do you think is ADOC going to help people, especially keeping in mind the small and mid-sized firm?
The first thing, we believe ADOC will be self-explanatory. That means nobody needs any training to use ADOC. The second thing is, the content in the ADOC is so self-explanatory that even a fresher will be able to use the particular tool without any discomfort, and they will be able to deliver value out of the tool. I'm very happy that one of the feedback videos, first impression videos, let me correct myself, it's first impression videos, which you have got is from a first year article. And what all he has spoken about, it is very difficult, generally for me at least, to imagine a first year article has used what we have put in ADOC with such ease. Okay, so that is where I believe. Therefore, our vision, True and Fair's vision, you are part of that vision, is we wanted to have a product which a person who knows English, who knows auditing, bit of auditing, will be able to use the tool right from day one. He doesn't need any training. Okay, it will be on the job training, looking at the screen. That is the training which he will have. He will gain a lot of insights about the company and industry, because one of the frustrating things I was having was we were moving away from understanding the client business to understanding audit. That is a wrong approach. Your audit is a process of understanding the client's business and communicating the results. Audit doesn't come above the client's business. So your starting point is the client's business. Unless you understand the client, your audit is going to be wrong. Okay. So I'll give you an example. One stakeholder spoke to me. This is being audited by a large firm, Big Four firm. He said, Balaji, this Big Four firm, I don't know how they cleared the revenue number. Okay, because this is a startup company, and the startup company had certain things as its core. It's a fintech company. Okay, so fintech company means it has got to do with finance and technology. Simple fintech, that is the word. What was its revenue? It was revenue from advertisements in their website. Is the advertisement from the website revenue and operating revenue? Yes or no? If you put it as operating revenue, lot of fintech startups are getting valued based on multiples of revenue. So you will get a multiple of that revenue. Now you have to decide whether it's operating revenue or not. And you have to justify. If you decide operating revenue, you have to justify why. If you decide other than operating revenue, you have to justify why. So this stakeholder who has invested money into this fintech, he said, I don't even know what the firm is doing. They are not even able to answer this question. They have gone with what the client has told. So because the auditor probably has not understood the business. If you understand the business, you come to the right answer. We are so busy building our files and documentation and reporting checklists and everything that the client's business is completely forgotten. That should not be the case. We should understand the client's business, we should spend time in doing that, and then the results come out. This tool, ADOC tool, will help that.
Wow, and he still doesn't smile when he's praising his own child. Thank you, Balaji.